Howdy everyone, it's Chris here with Zone Zero California, and I am in Santa Monica. Gorgeous day. To my right here is the coast in what's known as Palisades Park. But more importantly, over here to my left, this is the intersection of Ocean Boulevard and San Vicente. And the reason why I'm here, just like in all the other videos today, or that you might have seen, I am taking you, the viewer, to the line of demarcation here, according to the Cal Fire hazard zone maps. This is where the very high fire hazard severity zone begins in Santa Monica, and it essentially runs all the way down San Vicente Boulevard there. We're gonna take a drive down again like we did in the other videos. You know, we've already been to Los Feliz, Beechwood Canyon, Hollywood, part of West Hollywood, to show you guys exactly where these very high fire hazard severity zones begin, the kind of homes and structures and communities in those areas, and more importantly, the kind of common landscaping, fence, gate, siding, roofing, decking issues that many property owners are going to be facing here once these Zone Zero regulations are finally put forward. Now, of course, technically, this is already the law of the land. Very important. As far as enforcement, that's been something we've seen more as a mechanism from the insurance companies. For example, that you might be denied insurance or denied renewal for your insurance. But as the regulations begin to take effect, you're going to see perhaps more input as far as enforcement coming from local agencies, state agencies, fire departments, etc. So that's coming, and I'm making all of these videos now to put out there to start raising awareness, because what I'm finding is that many people are not aware of the problem yet. A lot of people are, but many people aren't. For example, I believe by the year 2028 or 2029, as the draft regulations have proposed, or the current laws have proposed, as that every single home, structure, property in California, not just ones in high fire hazard severity zones, but all of them will essentially have to comply with the Zone Zero regulations. And just to recap, what is Zone Zero? Zone Zero is the 0 to 5 feet around any structure, home, or property. Okay? And the rules around that stem from defensible space when it comes to fire mitigation. And essentially the core of it is that you can't have any combustible material within that 0 to 5 feet of your home. So no storing of firewood, no storing of gasoline, any type of landscaping debris, for example, dry leaves from a tree, must be addressed immediately. And now, furthermore, it's going to also start impacting the actual building materials themselves. The building materials themselves must be Class A non-combustible materials. So what does that mean? That means your old wood, fence, and gates are done. That means your landscaping most likely will need to change. You know, driving around Hollywood, Beechwood Canyon, Los Feliz, we pointed out many homes where the trees are essentially right next to the structure in that 0 to 5 foot radius of the building, therefore now falling under Zone Zero regulation compliance. In fact, the biggest pushback, I think, among people in the community through this process, through this regulatory process, has been about landscaping, about addressing shade, right? And things like that. Of course, the cost of just doing all of this. Now, besides fences, gates, and landscaping, it also includes decking, right? We drove through some parts of Hollywood where we noticed an apartment building, all of their balcony railings were made of wood. That's probably going to need to change, right? What else? It also essentially includes roofing and siding. And the reason all of these components are mentioned together is because when you address all of them at once, you're now creating a fire hardening system for your home or property. And that's kind of the name of the game here with Zone Zero. It's about creating a fire hardening system that's a combination of all these things. So these are some of the issues and concerns and points we're trying to raise awareness about. Once again, my name's Chris. Listen, I started a school community for Zone Zero here. It's free to join. I'm going to start putting resources, news, and other types of links there, just so there's like sort of one central place people can come and join. as a community. And then also, listen, if you want to have a discussion about your experiences, many people have had unpleasant experiences so far, please share those in the comments or come share them in our school community, because as people become aware, they need to be aware of the kinds of things and challenges they might be facing through this process. So sharing your experience will undoubtedly, not just help, raise awareness among those becoming acclimated to the Zone Zero regulations, but listen, I understand you might want to get some stuff off your chest. You're probably frustrated. You've probably been through a lot. You're probably still maybe even battling issues. So, please come feel free to vent. I'm not going to talk politics in this channel, but I don't mind if you do in the comments or at our school community. And of course, if you want more information and to be put in touch with local contractors in your area, go to zonezerocalifornia.com, reach out to us there, and we'll do our best to connect you with contractors, not just in your area, but who are vendors, approved vendors on the CAL FIRE vendor list. All right, so that being said, we're gonna start taking a drive through this part of Santa Monica here, just to give you a little bit more lay of the land before we hit the road. If you're familiar, you go a couple streets down, that's Montana, another very popular street here in the community. I do have a lot of history here in Santa Monica. Last year when the fire started, I had just moved into a new apartment and it was less than a mile from the evacuation zone. And one thing, that's what I've noticed here. Essentially, San Vicente Boulevard became the evacuation line, and that line held. They didn't need to move it or extend it further south, or I guess southeast. It's kind of at a funky angle. We're just gonna say south for now. And I was less than a mile from here. So, I saw that happen. I had just moved in. I was visiting family because it was right after the holidays. I was visiting family in Arizona at the time. And as I was driving here, the fires had just started, and it was just like, oh my God, am I gonna make it back to my apartment in time? Just, to get my stuff. And so thankfully that evacuation line never moved. And so now in 2025, May, CAL FIRE readjusted a lot of the lines, and I believe San Vicente Boulevard essentially represented that new line of demarcation where the very high fire hazard severity zone begins. Now, if you go south a few streets or blocks from San Vicente, the severity zone goes from very high to moderate. But nevertheless, once you are on San Vicente Boulevard, both sides of the street are well within that red zone. So we're gonna start taking a drive, pointing some stuff out, guys. Thanks again. Once again, my name's Chris with Zone Zero California. Hope you found this informative. Let's go check some stuff out in Santa Monica. Let me put my seatbelt on here so we don't hear all the beeping and buzzing here. So, okay, we're 1 block south of San Vicente. So this might be considered high or moderate, just outside the red zone. But essentially, from here north is where it begins. So let me just kind of point this camera around and show you, now this is a beautiful part of Santa Monica, but just take a look at all the landscaping and all the privacy hedges and things like that, all right? So I'm gonna just go here, all right? Notice how all of these houses, right? Look at these tall trees here, right? In fact, let me just go put you down the street. This is one of those classic palm tree lined streets in Los Angeles, So now here's a wood fence and gate. Now that's not 5 feet. Oh, but look, right next to the home to the right, there was some fence, wood fence panel or a gate. So that's in the 0 to 5 feet rule. That's going to be a Zone Zero compliance issue. Okay, look at here. This right here, the garage, and this gate next to this house. That's all old wood, so that would need to go as well. Right? So again, this is like a beautiful part of Santa Monica. Beautiful homes here, right? Look at all this landscaping, right? Look at these homes here. Look at the landscaping here, right? All those trees right next to the home, right? And there's a wood fence back there too. You can't see it, but I could. I know it's a little harder with the GoPro, but it's easier for me to drive around with the smaller camera. And again, I don't want to really get out and go onto these people's properties. That's not right either. But look, you've got old wooden rail fence here, right? Along the right there, all that with the wood lattice. That's all old wood. That would need to go. That's not Zone Zero compliant. Again, over here, look at this one, another wood house. Look at this, it's got wood siding, you know? So that whole house might need to be reconditioned. Again, just look at all of the vegetation here, right? Look at these dry palm trees, you know? Of course, what did we know? Or we know what there's another house with the old wood fence right next to it. So we know that the main cause and spread of these fires, right, is the embers. They call them ember storms. Essentially, the fire might be miles away, but the embers pick up in the wind and blow. And they blow for miles and miles and miles around and land on other properties. And that's what the Zone 0 regulation wants to address, is that we're making sure that we're protecting properties from these ember storms, or reducing the probability that these any embers land on combustible material that close to the home. So shut this off here. I got that weird buzzing. Again, just look at vegetation here. Look at all this vegetation. All right, or this. Look at this house. This house, or this apartment building, has all wood garage doors. That might be something else that needs to be considered, right? So here we're gonna go on to San Vicente. So remember, San Vicente represents, it's a good landmark to give you an idea of where the very high fire hazard zone is. So we're now in the red zone as far as Zone 0 compliance, and the Cal fire map, very high fire hazard severity zone. And again, beautiful homes here, but look at all the vegetation, right? All these trees close between the properties. Wood fence right there. Another wood fence right here. Right? Let's put you across the street there, here. And again, you know, this is a very classic street here. There's people always running and jogging up and down this street all the time. I myself have taken many walks up and down San Vicente here. And what about all these trees in the middle, right? Look at this. This one's dead. You think if there's a firestorm and an ember lands on that, it won't catch fire? I don't think so. You know? And so you see the scope of the problem here. Again, look at this house in the corner here. We're going to see wood fence on top of the wall. On top of the wall. Now, it may not be touching the house here, but oh, in the back corner, I saw a wood fence. I'm sorry, a wood gate. There's another house with wood siding back there. You know, so you guys can see. I mean, this is just giving. I'm just giving you guys a little bit of a on the ground look, boots on the ground look here, of, you know, your idea of a fire zone, a high fire risk zone, might be skewed. It's not just the middle of the forest in somewhere in California where it's dry. Right? We saw what happened. Now these urban interfaces, wildland urban interfaces, where essentially this was all once wildland. I'm going to turn off the road here. Right? Look at all that dry vegetation there, right? And how close it is to the structure here. The house has a wood fence. It's got wood siding. Right? Same thing over there. Wood siding, wood fence. I understand it might be a little tough to make out clearly with the GoPro guys because of the wide angle of the lens. You know, I'm not as close to it. It's harder for you to maybe see the details that I can see. You know, I'm not really trying to call out any one particular home or house. You know, my idea here is just to give you guys a little bit of a visual tour. Let me pull over so this guy behind me can pass me, right? Here's a wooden gate, right? Oh, here's a house. You know, what about the shingles, those style of shingles? You know, one thing I'm not familiar with is roofing. So, but there's another old, you know, cottage style home, right? Just look at the vegetation surrounding these homes. Look at all the dry vegetation on the ground here, right? This is another classically lined street, right? Now, these aren't palm trees, but these look more like some kind of pine tree, you know? You know what? Pine needles fall on the ground, they collect and they dry out. You know, oh, here's some construction, and on the side there, I see an old wood fence. So I'm gonna head to the next area next. But you know, this is Santa Monica, guys. I just kind of really, again, I'm going around all parts of LA, going into the very high fire hazard zones, taking you guys with me to show you, to start spreading the awareness here. We've got to raise awareness of the problem, to give you guys an idea of just how big of a challenge this is, how many people and homes are going to be affected once this regulation starts becoming more strictly enforced. And yeah, so, you know, once again, my name's Chris. I'm with Zone Zero California. You know, visit us at zonezerocalifornia.com for more information, or to be put in touch with CAL FIRE vendor approved contractors in your area, and join our school community for more resources and to join the discussion, guys. Thank you.